Bruce is the obvious place to start a life story. How can Mishima Yuki not begin with this? That was Japan's finest author of the 21st century was both spectacular and absurd. On November 21st, 1970, Mishima led members of his private army into the main military base in the center of Tokyo and launched a coup apparently intended to fail. The commander was taken hostage in white handband and the uniform that a biographer, Dorman Flamen, described and easily mistaken from a bellboy. Mishami stepped out onto a balcony and called upon the hundreds of members of the self-defense forces below to revolt and tear up Japanese pacifist constitution. Imposed by American occupier, it has diminished the standing of the empire and forbidden a conversional army. Aren't you Samuro? If you are Samuro, why do you defend a constitution that rejects you? The soldier responds with a cry of "Fuck you!" Back in the commander's office, Mishami, a sticker for timekeeping, removed his watch and prepared for seppuku, a ritual suicide. Nearing, he pushed his short sword into the left side of his lifetime and grunting, moved it across. A first applies want to complete the suicide with a swift beheading but missed up. Mishusha overdeveloped neck muscles from years of physical training did not help. A second delivered the final shot. The first deposed himself and was beheaded in turn. The front page of the evening edition of Asha Shube showed the two heads on the captain next to the crack of the long sword. Many Japanese remember exactly where they were on hearing the news. Mishima was the author of 34 limited movies, more than 470 plays, and scores of light tales for a mass market. He was Japanese first medium superhero. He acted in films and posed as a model. He has taught elimination in India a year before the Beatles. He had a sharp, sensual sense and a twinkling wit. He topped Heaven Punch magazine Miss Day Award. Yes, Mishima's commendation was long the preserve of right-wing fanatic. For all his componentism, his later years, Mishima embraced the notion that Japanese life should not only be lived through worship of empire. His idea, he told a hall of left-wing students at the University of Tokyo in 1969, was how, before the Second World War, the word empire has once prefaced all intentions. Mishima was born into a thieving household. His demoralizing grandmother called him indoors and her father destroyed his writings. Came of age just before Japan defeat in 1945. His generation was taught to sacrifice the most beautiful things they had, their lives for the empire. But when caught up, put Mishima failed his medical. Hirono Keiichiro, a novelist, said, survival skills played a big part in his militarism. Fused to it was his obsession with pleasure, pain, and human eroticism. In one of greatest stories, the Temple of the Golden Pavilion, a monk burned a temple because it's too beautiful. Mishima, in return, was built his body for a final sacrifice. Yes, Mishima's life-defining days changed the nihilism of nature more than anything essentially Japanese. The act mattered as much as the word. Mishima has no time for intellectuals who never left their town, said Ro Pover, and also a translator. The uncovered footage of Mishima debate with students at the height of huge anti-American and anti-establishment protests was recently made into a documentary. Mishima, the last debate. If you are mentioning empire just once, Mishima declared at one point, I'll join your cause gladly. Young Japanese has flocked to see the documentary. Mishima's books are said well too. That would have pleased him, but he would have been appalled at the prospect of people placidly enjoying locking down thanks to Zoom, Netflix, and Uber Eats, totally comfortable with the prospect of a future controlled by artificial intelligence and big data, as Peter Taster, a publicist based in Tokyo, playing Nikki Asia, opposed Zula's last band. Many wonder how this might have been had Mishima survived in one novel. Oh, Kazuo Nobel has Mishima released from the prison after 30 years to become the leader of 21st century cult. If this is not as far-fetched as he actually is, then Mishima has made sure that he knew he would always be the last word.